3 years ago, he lost his voice and swore he'd never use it again. Not because he physically couldn't, because the last time he spoke, someone he loved never got to hear him take it back. Since then, he'd run one of the biggest companies in the country without saying a single word out loud. Memos. A tablet. Silence so complete his own family had stopped expecting anything else from him. Then his new assistant walked in.
Good morning, Mr. Han.
And within a month, everything about that silence started to break. This is the story of how a man forgot how to speak, and the one person who never got the memo that he wasn't supposed to answer. Let's get into it. The interview had lasted 11 minutes, and Jae-won hadn't said a single word. Naomi had been warned beforehand, vaguely, unhelpfully, by HR. He doesn't speak much. Communicate through the tablet if needed. Don't take it personally. She'd nodded like that made sense, though it didn't, not really. Not until she was sitting across from him in an office the size of her apartment, watching him type a question into a tablet and slide it across the desk instead of asking it out loud. Why do you want this position? She'd answered honestly. She needed the salary. She was good at her job. She didn't scare easily. Jae-won had watched her the entire time with an expression she couldn't place. Not cold. Just closed, like a door someone had stopped knocking on a long time ago. She got the job the same day. Her first week, Naomi learned the system everyone else had built around him. Notes passed instead of questions asked. Meetings run through a translator of sorts, his longtime aide, who'd spent 3 years learning to read his expressions like a second language. Nobody addressed him directly if they could help it. Nobody expected an answer. She found the whole thing faintly ridiculous. On day 4, she walked into his office with his coffee and, without thinking about it, just started talking about the terrible traffic, about how the coffee machine on the 4th floor made everything taste like burnt toast, about nothing that mattered at all. She didn't pause for a response. She didn't treat the silence like something she had to work around. She just filled it, the way she would with anyone. Jae-won looked up from his desk, mildly startled, like she'd broken some rule she didn't know existed. Naomi kept talking anyway. His aide caught her in the hallway afterward, quiet and pointed. You know he doesn't usually get engaged like that. Like what? I was talking about coffee. That's exactly it. Nobody just talks to him anymore. Not like that. Naomi didn't fully understand what the aide meant. Not yet, but she filed it away. And the next day, she did it again. Talked to Jae-won like a person instead of a fragile arrangement. Made a joke about his ridiculously color-coded schedule. Raised an eyebrow when he sent her a note that read, simply, get to the point. I am at the point, she said. You just don't like where it's going. For the briefest second, so brief she almost missed it. Something shifted in his face. Not a smile exactly, but close enough that his aide, watching from the doorway, nearly dropped her tablet. By the second week, a pattern had formed that nobody could quite explain. Naomi talked, filling every silence he offered without apology. Jae-won responded more. Not out loud, but faster. More directly, sometimes with something that looked dangerously close to humor in his handwriting. His older sister noticed first. She dropped by his office under the guise of business and found her brother's new assistant mid-rant about a vending machine, and her brother, arms crossed, watching her with an expression his sister hadn't seen in 3 years. Something that looked almost like being entertained. His sister said nothing that day, but she started watching more closely after that. Not with suspicion, exactly. With something closer to hope, and the fear of hope not being enough. 3 weeks in, and Naomi had stopped noticing the tablet. Not because Jae-won had stopped using it. He still typed most of what he needed to say, but because the rhythm between them had changed. He'd started angling the screen toward her before she even asked. Sometimes he'd tap the desk twice when he wanted her attention. A small private signal that had somehow developed between them without either one deciding on it out loud. She still talked constantly. About her sister's terrible taste in men. About the office gossip nobody thought she'd noticed, about a documentary she'd watched at 2 a.m. because she couldn't sleep. Jae-won listened to all of it with the same quiet attention he gave quarterly reports, like she mattered exactly that much, if not more. One afternoon, she caught him almost laughing. Not out loud. Just a breath through his nose, shoulders shaking slightly, eyes crinkled at something she'd said about his sister's terrible taste in interior design. It lasted 2 seconds. She pretended not to notice, because some instinct told her that if she made it a big deal, he'd shut the door on it immediately. His aide started pulling her aside more often now. Not with warnings, but with something closer to quiet gratitude. He ate lunch in the office yesterday, with the door open. The aide said it like it meant something enormous, because it did. He hasn't done that in over a year. Is that good? It's the best thing I've seen in 3 years. Naomi didn't ask what had happened 3 years ago. Some part of her sensed that the question would close something that had only just started to open. So she let it be, and kept talking to him the same way she always had. Easily, carelessly, like his silence had never been a wall to begin with. The shift became undeniable during a shareholder call gone wrong. A board member, older, aggressive, clearly testing boundaries, pushed hard on a decision Jae-won had made, demanding a verbal response instead of accepting the usual written statement relayed through his aide. The room went tense. Naomi watched Jae-won's jaw tighten, watched his hand grip the edge of the table just slightly too hard. Before anyone could intervene, she leaned toward the microphone at her own seat. Mr. Han's position is final, and frankly, well documented in the report you were sent yesterday morning. If you'd read it, she glanced pointedly at her tablet, you'd already know the answer to the question you just asked. The room went quiet in the specific way rooms go quiet when someone says the thing everyone was thinking. The board member reddened and dropped the subject. Afterward, in the elevator, Jae-won typed something on his tablet and held it up before she could look away. You didn't have to do that. I know, she said, but you looked like you wanted to throw something at him, and I didn't feel like filing an incident report today. He didn't type anything back right away. He just looked at her for a long moment. Long enough that she felt it settle somewhere in her chest. Warm and unfamiliar. Then he typed one more line and turned the screen toward her. Thank you. 2 words. Nothing dramatic. But his aide, standing at the back of the elevator, looked like she might cry. That night, alone in his apartment, Jae-won sat with the tablet in his lap, scrolling back through weeks of typed conversations with Naomi. Mundane things, jokes, complaints about traffic, the most words he'd exchanged with another person in 3 years. He opened a drawer he hadn't touched since the accident. Inside was a photo, worn soft at the edges, of the person he'd lost that night. The person he'd been arguing with in the car. The last words he'd ever spoken out loud lost somewhere in the wreckage along with everything else. He stared at the photo for a long time. Then, quietly, for the first time in 3 years, he tried to say her name. The name of the person he'd lost, and found that his voice, however rusty, however uncertain, was still there. He didn't say it to anyone, just to the empty room, just to himself. But it was there. The truth found Naomi by accident, the way truths like this usually do. She'd stayed late one evening, finishing a report in the outer office, when she knocked over a stack of old files Jae-won's aide had left half-organized on a side table. As she gathered them back into place, one folder slid open on the floor. Old press clippings, yellowed at the edges, clearly kept rather than filed. A headline caught her eye before she could stop herself from reading it. Han Group heir involved in fatal accident. Fiancé among the deceased. Naomi sat frozen on the floor of the office, the folder open in her lap, staring at a photo of a Jae-won she barely recognized. Younger, unguarded, smiling in a way she'd never once seen him smile in 3 months of working beside him. Next to him in the photo was a woman with a bright, easy laugh caught mid-motion by the camera. The article was dated 3 years back, almost to the week. She read it twice. Then a third time, hands unsteady, before she could bring herself to close the folder. He'd been driving. They'd been arguing about something small. The article didn't say what. The car had flipped. She hadn't survived. He had, physically. But something in him clearly hadn't walked away untouched. Naomi sat there a long time before she put the folder back exactly where she'd found it. She didn't say anything to him the next day. Or the day after that. She told herself she needed time to figure out what to do with what she knew. Whether to pretend she hadn't seen it, whether saying something would help him, or just tear open a wound that had barely started closing. But Jaewon noticed the shift immediately. He always noticed things about her now. He typed a single line and slid the tablet toward her during a quiet afternoon. Something's different. What happened? Naomi hesitated long enough that his expression changed. The guarded look returning, faster than it had left. He assumed the worst. That she'd finally gotten scared, finally understood the size of what she'd walked into and wanted out. I found out, she said finally, quietly. About the accident. About her. The silence that followed was unlike any silence between them before. Not comfortable. Not familiar. Heavy and old, like a door slamming shut on both of them at once. He didn't type anything for a long moment. Then, slowly, now you know why everyone else stopped talking to me like a person. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you still here? Naomi thought about lying, softening it, making it easier for both of them. She didn't. Because you're not just the silence everyone's been protecting for 3 years. You're the man who laughs at bad interior design jokes. You're the man who said thank you in an elevator like it cost you something. I'm not scared of what happened to you. I'm scared of you deciding it's the only thing that gets to define you. Jaewon didn't respond right away. His hand hovered over the tablet, then stopped. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Really looked, the way he hadn't let himself look at anyone in 3 years. That week, the story took its hardest turn. A rival executive, sensing weakness, seeing an opportunity in what he assumed was a fragile, voiceless CEO, moved to force a hostile vote at the next board meeting, betting that Jaewon's silence would cost him the company entirely. Whispers reached Naomi first. They were going to corner him publicly, force a response in real time, knowing he'd never been able to give one before. She wanted to intervene the way she had before. Step in, speak for him, absorb the blow so he wouldn't have to. But this time, standing outside the boardroom doors with her hand on the handle, she stopped herself. This time, it has to be him. She looked through the glass at Jaewon sitting at the head of the table, the rival executive already mid-speech, already circling for the kill. Their eyes met across the room. She didn't move to save him. She just nodded. Small, steady, certain. The way you'd nod at someone you trusted to do something hard on their own. The boardroom was silent in the way rooms go silent right before something breaks. The rival executive, Director O, a man who'd spent 3 years waiting for exactly this opening, stood at the head of the table, voice smooth and merciless. Let's be honest about what's happening here. We have a CEO who cannot communicate with his own shareholders in real time. Every decision filtered through assistants, through notes, through delay. That's not leadership. That's a liability wearing a title. He turned, deliberately, to face Jaewon directly. So I'll ask you plainly, since apparently no one else has had the nerve to, can you even defend this company right now? Out loud? Or should we vote on someone who can? The room held its breath. Jaewon's age shifted forward slightly, ready to step in as she always had. Jaewon lifted a hand. Barely, just enough to stop her. Through the glass wall outside, Naomi watched, hands pressed flat against her thighs to keep them from shaking. She didn't move. She'd promised herself she wouldn't. Jaewon's jaw tightened. His hand rested on the table, over the tablet he'd used for 3 years like armor. For a moment, it looked like he'd reach for it, type the response, let someone else's voice carry his words into the room one more time. He didn't. He looked up instead. Not at Director O. At the glass wall, at Naomi standing on the other side of it, steady and waiting and not moving to save him. And he opened his mouth. "I built this company back from nothing after the accident everyone in this room has been too polite to mention out loud." His voice came out rough and used, cracking slightly on the second sentence, but clear. Undeniably clear. "I did that without needing to explain myself to you. I don't intend to start now." The room went dead silent. Not the silence of before, but something closer to shock. Director O's mouth opened, then closed, no rebuttal ready for a man who wasn't supposed to be able to speak at all. "If you have concerns about my leadership," Juan continued, each word steadier than the last, like a muscle remembering how to move, "bring them in writing, with numbers, the way this board is supposed to operate. Not theater." He looked around the table once, slow and deliberate. Nobody said a word. Meeting's over. Outside, Naomi hadn't moved. She'd heard every word through the door left slightly ajar, and when Jaewon walked out minutes later, straightening his jacket like nothing enormous had just happened, she simply looked at him. "You spoke," she said quietly. "I did." His voice was still rough, unfamiliar even to himself. He looked almost stunned by the sound of it. "First time in 3 years I didn't feel like it would break something." "What changed?" Jaewon considered the question a long moment, the corridor empty around them. His aide watching discreetly from a distance without interrupting. "You never treated it like something that needed fixing," he said finally. "You just talked to me. Like it was already fine." He paused. "I forgot silence could just be silence. Not a punishment." Naomi didn't say anything right away. She let the moment sit. The way she'd learned to let his silences sit for 3 months, without rushing to fill every single one. "For what it's worth," she said eventually, "I liked you either way, talking or not." Something shifted in his face. Not the small, careful, almost smile from before. Something fuller. Something that looked, for the first time, like a man who believed he was allowed to want something again. "I'd like to take you to dinner," he said, voice still finding its footing. "Actually say it this time, not type it." Naomi smiled. "I was wondering when you'd ask out loud." Dinner happened 3 days later, in a quiet restaurant Jaewon chose himself. No assistant booking it, no aide arranging the table. Small things, but Naomi noticed all of them. He talked more that night than she'd heard him speak in the entire 3 months she'd known him. Not everything came easily. His voice still caught sometimes, still needed a second to find the right word after 3 years of silence. But he didn't reach for the tablet once. Not even when it would have been easier. Near the end of the night, he grew quiet again. A different kind of quiet than before. Naomi recognized it immediately. "You don't have to tell me," she said gently. "I already know enough." "I want to," Jaewon said. "For once, I want to say it instead of letting a file explain it for me." He told her about the accident. Not every detail, but enough. The argument that had started over something so small neither of them could remember what it was by the time the car flipped. The last thing he'd said to her, sharp and thoughtless, words he never got the chance to take back. The 3 years of silence that followed, not as punishment exactly, but as a kind of penance. If his words could do that much damage, maybe the safest thing was never to use them again. "I thought if I never spoke," he said quietly, "I'd never hurt anyone like that again." Naomi reached across the table, not to fix it, not to offer some perfect response, just to let her hand rest over his. "Silence didn't make you safe. It just made you alone." Jaewon looked at her for a long moment. "I know that now." 6 months later, the company had stabilized. Director O's attempted coup a footnote in the annual report. Jaewon still had quiet days. Days where words came slower, where old grief surfaced without warning, and Naomi never rushed him through them. She'd learned, the way he had, that healing wasn't a straight line from silence to speech. Some days he still reached for the tablet out of habit. She let him. She just kept talking anyway, the way she always had. And eventually, he'd talk back. His sister, watching them from across the office one afternoon, finally said the thing she'd been holding on to for months. "Thank you," she told Naomi, "for not being afraid of him when the rest of us were too afraid of what happened to him." Naomi just smiled. "I wasn't trying to fix him. I just talked to him like a person." Turns out that was the thing nobody had done in 3 years. The story closes on J1, standing at his office window at sunset, tablet closed and set aside on the desk. Not gone, just no longer necessary. Naomi's laugh audible from the hallway outside. The sound that had, somehow, without either of them planning it, become the thing that brought his voice back into the world.